Welcome, everybody, to this week's edition of Valpo Athletics Weekly, presented by our friends at Lakeshore Bone and Joint Institute. It's Brandon Vickery with you. This week, I'm glad to be joined by the head football coach here at Valparaiso University, and that is Andy Waddle, as he gets set for his first spring game leading the Beacons and comes down the final stretch of his first spring season here at Valpo. And, Coach, first of all, just how'd you assess the way this spring has gone overall, and what's stood out to you about your first spring as the head coach here at Valpo?
Yeah, it's been great. It's just been great to get out and do football and get a chance to work with these guys. I think that credit to the university and to Coach Fox and to the staff that was here before me. They recruited some outstanding young men and some great people. And I think Valpo as an institution, I think that those type of people are drawn here. And I certainly have what was one of the appeals of coming here, just knowing that you'd get to really work with high quality students and student athletes and been impressed with the character of the young men. We're not perfect, but it's been exciting to get out there and do some football things. I think that obviously a new offense, new defense, with that comes some growing pains, a new staff. With that comes some new expectations, and just a different way of doing things. And I think that all of that, while there's been some growing pains, there's been a lot of bright spots, and I think that the guys have really embraced some of the changes that we've put forth. So, all in all, I think it's been very positive and probably while there has been some challenges, easier and better transition than maybe what I anticipated.
So look ahead to Saturday. It's the chance to replicate a game-like situation with the spring game. How important is it for you to evaluate guys in that type of environment during the spring? And as coaches, what will you be looking for? What will you be evaluating in the spring game on Saturday?
Well, I mean, lots of questions there, right? First off, exciting to get out and, showcase, some of what we're planning to do, next fall, albeit we're going against each other. So, it's hard to get too excited when the offense has a dominating performance or if the defense puts a dominating performance out there. But at the same point in time, I think, you really want to go out and see your guys execute at a high level. I think that we're looking for guys that are going to be able to make plays, as opposed, and hopefully that'll happen as opposed to, guys just busting assignments and giving up plays. So, that balance is always, I think, what you're looking for. And, clean, high level football is what we want to be able to play. Very few mistakes and yeah, when it comes to the evaluation piece, I mean, we're looking for guys that are going to be, doing the right things, assignment, sound football, that are not making the mistakes, going to the right places, going to the right guys. And then when they show up in those places, the guys that are able to kind of make something happen. So we're excited to get that chance to really evaluate guys when the lights are on and the referees are out there and the competition gets a little bit closer to being real.
Talk about the format. We over the years here at Valpo, we've seen various formats during the spring game. What will the format look like on Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, I hope that it looks like a game, right? I mean, I hope that we can, have a kickoff and a kickoff return and maybe not completely live on everything, but I hope that it looks like a game. We're not going to necessarily, like I said, be live on all parts of it, but we're going to line up. We're going to try to move the ball around and just the same way that you would in a chains format. We'll probably have some scripted series to make sure that we get everything in, some scripted looks. But yeah, we want to, we've got our team divided up fairly equally, and we want to see them go out and compete. I can tell you that we're still very much evaluating across the board and making sure that we are that we're figuring out who the best players are as best we can at this point in time.
The marquee players in the program this past season was running back Michael Mansoray. And I think whenever there's a coaching change, there's a risk of players leaving. What were your conversations like with Mike after you took the job? And how did he reach the decision to stay here at Valpo?
I can't speak for what Mike's thought process was. I know that Mike was at my press conference. Mike was one of the first people that I got a chance to meet. And luckily Mike uh is a guy who, never really had to do a lot of convincing. I think that he has some connections to some people that I'm connected with. Some of his teammates from high school were guys that I coached at Marietta, and I think I had a great relationship with those guys. I have a great relationship with Mike. I mean, Mike's been, just an awesome personality, a really high quality football player, but a high quality person as well. And so, I've been just really excited to get a chance to work with Mike and hang out with him and get to know him off the field. And, I think that he can be certainly a weapon for us next fall.
Talk about who else or what other position groups have stood out to you over the course of the spring. What groups or what individuals have maybe captured your attention?
You know, um, first off, I think that there's been, bright spots at every single position group, and some of those guys are steady veterans. I mean, I think like Nico decided to come back or right guard, and I think that at some point in time, I think he was in flex. We really tried to work hard to get him back, and he's been outstanding, on the offensive line, but. There have been some other really bright spots with the offensive line too, and I think that was an area that some people had some concerns about. But I think that those guys came along. I think that there are a couple other guys in the running back line that I think can add depth behind Mike. I think we had some talented receivers. I think we added a couple talented receivers through the spring portal or through the fall portal that's going to make that group a little bit better group. I think that your quarterbacks. I think that all three are able to do different things well. And uh, they've had good days, and they've had days where maybe one of the other guys is jumping ahead of them. But I think that there's some quality there, and obviously, Karan did some awesome things last year, and really saw him pop with his ability to make things happen. Rowan played a little bit the year before, and maybe a little bit at the beginning of last season, and he's been, also very good through spring. And Marcus adds a different element. Marcus Brown adds a different element, just a great athlete as well. So I think that's been a good group. The tight ends have been beat up. Guys that are playing for us right now are guys that were freshmen last year. And Max has been out with an injury, so we haven't had a chance to see him. But we moved uh, Micah McKay into that group, um, and I think that those guys can present some challenges just with their ability to be blockers and threats down the field. Defensively, we didn't return a lot of starters. I think, Isaiah Fowler was a returning starter, and I say he pops on film. I mean, like, he's doing the right things and causing problems and a force kind of in there. I think the D line as a whole they graduated a lot, but I think there was talent or graduated slash, you know, transfer or whatever, but there was talent behind those guys. So I think the D line is going to be a good group and a group that has some guys that can play for us. In the secondary, um, Nick Landino returns as a starter. I've been impressed with him. We added a few other guys in the secondary, which I think can all kind of push for playing time. We added three other corners, so all I think have been, guys that fit at this PFL level and can do some good things. In the secondary, Mark Johnson's played a little bit, and Mark's been, a um, really positive through the spring. I think Wyatt Little's been, very good with, picking up what we're doing. Then you add in like, Vital and Dixon, and we added a guy named, another guy, Jordan Greenhouse and Greenhow and then Frank. And so that's a group that I think there's quality there in the safety line. And at linebacker, I think it's no secret that, man, the guy who has absolutely popped the most has been Max Samuel. And I think Max Samuel's probably, in my mind, the guy that maybe been as impressed with as anybody on the defensive side. So he's been really solid too.
Shift gears from football and give you the chance to talk about what's happening on Friday. I think a lot of people now know about the cause you're involved with and raising awareness and getting people signed up for the National Bone Marrow Registry. What can you tell us about, for those that haven't heard about it, how important that is to you, and what can you tell us about what you're doing with the program on Friday?
Yeah, well, thanks for, letting me do that here and letting me talk about it here on this opportunity. But so what we're trying to do is bring awareness to the process of stem cell donations. We've partnered with the company MMDP, which is formerly known as Be the Match, and I've done that through a foundation that specifically works with college athletes and getting on college campuses and mostly football teams, but it's not limited to football teams. And it's a foundation that was um, founded by a guy named Andy Talley, who was the head coach at Villanova, won a national championship there, and FCS program. And what Andy Talley did was he started signing up people to the National Bone Marrow Registry on his team at Villanova, and then it's spawned from there. And he really worked with the Ivy Leagues, and then got out of the East Coast and started going west. And he and I became connected because my wife had a bone marrow transplant, and her transplant was from an unrelated donor, a young, healthy man, which, young, healthy people are the number one people that they want. And even beyond that, I mean, young, healthy men are the best donors because, just the cell regeneration is the best with those young people. And then with men, there's a little bit more and of the power behind their blood than. So those are the people that I'm connected with. And so we started doing this in honor of, because of my wife's history of having a bone marrow transplant from an unrelated donor from the registry, partnered with Andy Talley. It's been really a powerful thing for me in the past. Um, People that are looking for a bone marrow transplant typically have no other cure. The only cure is a bone marrow transplant for somebody fighting a blood disease. And if they don't get that, they will cease to exist. And that was the case with my wife. And I'm so thankful that a man named Todd Spencer, answered the call and said, yes, I'm willing to donate. And because of that, he gave my wife a second chance at life and gave me the opportunity to have my family. My son's name is Spencer, after the Spencer family. Um, and so we're just glad to spread the awareness, to get people signed up. And, statistically, we will, about 2% of the people that end up signing up will end up donating and saving their lives. And so we're hoping to sign up couple hundred people and maybe save a handful of lives, just through the donation and the process of us doing that this Friday.
for sharing your story, and thanks for bringing that here to Valpo. Well,
Absolutely. We'll be all over campus. So between 11 and 4.
there he is, the head coach of the Valpo football program, Andy Waddle. We invite you to, those who are able, participate on Friday. We also invite you to come out and support the team and check out the spring game. It is open to fans on Saturday at 1 o'clock at Brown Field. We'll talk to you again next time on Valpo Athletics Weekly, presented by our friends at Lakeshore Bone and Joint Institute.